From our perspective, and I think it's true for in technology in particular, the world keeps changing, as I said earlier. So, a big part of what I focus on at any given time is, making sure we are innovating and building products for the future. It's just got to be a normal course of how you think. And so, we are constantly thinking about what to do next. So, Android is very popular. People are using smartphones. But, I always sit and think about what is the next version of how people use computing, right? And so we are thinking about, things like virtual reality or augmented reality. So these are all new areas, but we are constantly thinking about it. And so you have to do that on a constant basis to push forward.
The thing which attracted me to Google and to internet in general is that it's a great equalizer, right? And so to me, I've always been struck by the fact that Google search worked the same as long as you had access to computer with connectivity, if you were a rural kid anywhere, or if you were a professor at Stanford or Harvard. And to me, I want Google to strive to push to do that, not just build technology for a certain segments, right? For me, it matters that we drive technology as an equalizing force, as an enabler to everyone around the world.
Growing up in India, like many of you, I got my first telephone when I was 12. In my case, it turned out to be a rotary phone, so it wasn't that great for selfies, but I still loved to call my friends, play with it, and sometimes take it apart. That telephone cemented my fascination with technology. I remember in my parents' house in Chennai, reading about the invention of the transistor at Bell Labs. Of course, that initial invention helped found what became known as Silicon Valley, and out of that came companies like Fairchild Semiconductor and Intel, and all the computers and software that we all use today. You can draw a direct line from that invention to the technology that powers your Twitter feed or your WeChat messages today. I remember reading about that and thinking, it's the idea that matters. It didn't matter where you come from or what your background is. One revolutionary idea, one brilliant invention can unleash other entrepreneurs to revolutionize industries in ways you could never predict. You will have many opportunities to reinvent yourself, and so so I think it's worthwhile taking risks and trying to do something you're really excited by. And if the first attempt you don't do it, you can try again, and things tend to work out in the long run. In Silicon Valley, part of the reason so many people start up a company is, starting up a company and even having failed, you can wear it like a badge of honor, right? And I think that's important. Culturally, risk is rewarded. I remember when I started working at Google, if I went and people were discussing ideas, the other people who heard the ideas try to build on those ideas. They encourage you. So it's a culture of optimism. It's a culture of risk taking, and I think that's really important. So,
for me, it mainly is I've always been very passionate. So, I'm a optimist about how technology can make a difference, and so I focus on that, and that way you kind of tend to forget about the other things. The rest is noise. So, in some ways, we believe that software is at a stage where software increasingly is playing a more and more critical role in solving things which it didn't before. So to me, when I look at cars, people spend an inordinate amount of time in cars. These are resources which are very poorly utilized. Right now, as we speak, you can look outside and you can see all the cars which are parked.
The cars we rented.
It get used less than 10%. So we see these problems and we see, okay, can we solve it at scale? And does computing play a part in it, software and computer science? And while the effort may seem ambitious or crazy, we take a very disciplined approach inside, right? So those are thought through like businesses which we are building. And it's just that we're willing to take a long-term view, but we run them in a very disciplined way. Our research can be longer term, and we do that precisely in research. When we take research projects like Google ATAP or a core research, we never know whether some of them even makes viable business applications, but we want to push the technology at times because you don't know what's possible on the other side.
Being in the US, I find people take a remarkably varied number of paths, and so I do think it's important to follow your dream and do something which you're excited by. So I think if you follow your heart and do what you like, you will always do much better. And so I don't think it matters that you're an engineer or you're in science, or it could be in any field. Believe it or not, I still, I read a physical paper every single morning.
Which one?
I read the Wall Street Journal every morning. I read the New York Times online. I still am very particular about having my tea. It's very English. I grew up in India. So having my tea, and I'm vegetarian, so I need to get my protein. So I always have an omelet in the morning with toast, tea, and read my paper. So I do that every morning, 6:30 to 7. So that's when I do it.
Do you exercise in the morning?
No, later in the day, sometimes, if I get a chance, but always in the evening. I wish I could do it in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so I need my time with my paper and tea to wake up and kind of get going.
Now you're being spoken about as a potential next CEO of Google.
I keep hearing that. Larry is very, very committed to Google for the very long term. So am I. I'm passionate about computing, and Google gives a chance for me to do what I love and do it in a way which impacts a lot of people. And so it's a good partnership I have with Larry and with the team there. And so, I expect it to stay the same.
I would actually encourage all of you, if at some point in your life, you have to work with people where you feel a bit insecure, right? That's essential, because that means you're working with people who are better than you and who are pushing you, right? And so I always encourage, if you actually feel very secure in what you do, that means you're doing something comfortable and you're not pushing yourself. And so there are many, many times I felt working with people in a group, am I doing enough? These people seem much better than me, and I think that's an inherent part of learning.